the draft already. Let's take a look. Here we have Rage Quit Gaming. These are not the teams that are on here, okay? The UI has not been updated yet. So I'm going to go ahead and just transition this to a clean screen for the moment while we wait for the Masters Clash scenes to be updated. But on the left side of your screen is Granit Gaming, and on the right side of your screen is Inting for Ruby. As we see Granit Gaming taking away the Hogger at the very start of this draft on Infernal Shrines. No surprises there. And speaking of Hogger bans, Cav, I want to say Oxygen banned Hogger every single game they played yesterday?
That might be the case, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Heroes just busted, okay? Personally, I think you gotta be a bit of a bad person to play that character. Just to play a character with that many comically overpowered tools all at the same time, you know? But that's just a bit of character judgment from me. Don't let me color your specific hero choices, chat, alright?
It's almost as bad as playing a hero that has auto attack vamp. Like basically cheating. You hit things and you heal. Like what's up with that?
Look, Cav, if 2 out of 3 of my buttons aren't dedicated to saving me, I can't stop inting, okay? I need this. As we see Blaze getting banned out by the side of inting for Ruby. And a bit of a surprise there. I think this is the first pick fall stat I've ever seen in MC, but then it's immediately followed up. You know, Inting for Ruby loves that Uther. They picked it both games yesterday in the first pick slot, and here it is again. Uther Maiev insta-lock from Inting for Ruby.
So for people who need some context here, Quacknix was a very famous shot caller during HGC, but he couldn't play the game and shot call at the same time, like really effectively, except for 3 heroes. Those heroes were Lunara, Genji, and Falstad. And Quacknix's team Fnatic actually invented essentially all triple global strats for a very high level of play. So that while that first pick Falstad may seem absolutely insane, you think about those 3 heroes, Lunara's a little different, Genji's a little different, but Falstad, still basically the same hero, and arguably one of the best Falstads to ever play the game, just picked it, so...
Falstad just absolutely a bit of a carry pick in general. The ranged mosh pit is real post level 20 with that wind tunnel. It seems like it ends the game every time Falstad is allowed to get to 20. Meanwhile, Garrosh and Stukov picked up for Breeze and Azerite. Of course, I mention this every time we see a Garrosh on Infernal Shrines. You do not have to worry about Garrosh throwing the Shrine Guardians, as they are not eligible targets. A lot of people are like, oh, Garrosh is bad on Shrines because you throw the little goons. That's not the case. To my understanding, I believe Garrosh is incapable of throwing both summons and monsters, if I'm aware of that.
Yeah, Garrosh will actually get 100 to 0'd by a monstrosity because he really can't interact with it very well. Monstrosity is one of the main counters to offlane Garrosh. There's a little tech tip for you guys when in that very common situation that you're going to run into where you have Apather versus offlane Garrosh.
Yep, in the situation where Huff Money is resurrected from the dead and brings back his offlane Garrosh, and you have all those Abathur players that are running rampant in SL everywhere versus him. Totally normal situation, happens to me every Tuesday. Meanwhile, Hat and Nox picking up Lunara, Rehgar on the other side. Ooh, Poik on that Chromie, and an off-lane Imperius. You know me, chat, you know I'm raging a little bit whenever I see an off-lane Imperius. I want to see Inting for Ruby pick up a second point here today. As I'm looking for the count. Actually, Inting for Ruby does have 2 points. Let me give them their credit. I'm rooting for Inting for Ruby to pick up that 3rd point right here against this offlane Imperius.
I'll be curious to see what offlane... Okay, they didn't do it picking Dahaka. I was going to say, I wonder if they're going to pick something that really synergizes with the Maiev and potentially gives her a little bit more follow-up. There's even, there's some insane scenarios, right, where they could pick another support here and actually have offlane Rehgar and actually end up having triple support Lunara Maiev. But they decided to go a little bit more standard and a little less insane. I like the global to sort of cover the macro weakness of the double support cone.
Yeah, and double support seems to be just the go-to strategy near every time for the members of Inting for Ruby. I'm just noticing them consistently go back to it week after week. These guys must think main tank Uther is just insane. Because They consistently go back to it. I will say, I'm a little skeptical of Imperius's ability to do what he needs to do into a team that has 2 cleanses, that has this level of healing. I think he might struggle to pick up kills here, but of course, to an extent, you gotta just factor in standings. And Inting for Ruby has not had a great showing in Masters Clash so far, so despite what I may think about the draft, I feel inclined to go for the team that has a much higher showing in the standings, but we will see how it actually shakes out in the game itself. The damage structure, though, to me, Cav, I look at Chromie, Falstad, Imperius. I think that it's not stellar follow-up for Garrosh. I think that it might struggle to get kills into double support. But let's see how it shakes out here as the game has now loaded in, and there we go. This overlay was updating just as I went in. On the right side of your screen, you have Inting for Ruby with Hat on Lunara, Gunnar playing that Dahaka, Fish on Uther, Nox on Rhaegar, and Mindhawk on Maiev. Kev, who do we have playing for Granit Gaming?
On the left-hand side of the map, we will have Granit Gaming. We'll have Wubby on that. Imperius Azerite on Stukov, subbing in for Smexy, Poik on Chromie, Quacknix on Falstad, and Breeze on Garrosh. Here he was actually really well known for. Here's something to consider for the matchup, though. Inting for Ruby, I think, has only won when they're allowed to play Uther double support. So it is 100% of their wins. They haven't won with it every time they've gotten it, however. It's the only time they have won, so I think this is in some ways the best odds they have of playing an even game against this roster.
It makes perfect sense. Alrighty, both teams exchanging some damage here. Gunnar fishing for that hook as the Dahaka not able to find it. Will get stabbed by Wubby, but there's the immediate cleanse. Of course, expect a lot of those this game. Wubby will be first to fall, actually, on the counter engage from Inting for Ruby. Time stop, just pausing everything for a brief moment there from Poik, but it's actually a double kill from the members of Inting for Ruby to start this out. Mindhawk aggressively interfering with those rotations, forcing Quacknix to back off right there. And that's gotta be a bit of a confidence booster in the opener here for Inting for Ruby, allowing them to secure an early macro advantage. Let's see if they can get some camps out of it.
Yeah, it was a 4-mine clump into Maiev, which is something you're not allowed to do. You also really don't want to brawl into double support. Brawling into double support is playing to that comp strengths as opposed to any, they have a global, right? They want to make sure that they have their lanes pushed and then look for picks as opposed to full-on 5v5s. That's the ideal case scenario for them, unless they can scale, get something else going. I don't know. Did Garrosh body check at one? Do they have anti-heal?
Garrosh did not go body check at one.
So they're not going to have any anti-heal at any point during this game. So, the 20 Ancestral is going to get massive value all the time. They're going to have D-Shield to prevent massive blowups. It's going to be really hard draft-wise for Granit Gaming to do much here if they can't find picks, where they can't find situations where they get just one hero isolated and kill it without the rest of the team there to save.
When Breeze started that camp right there, down level 4, I almost thought that Inting for Ruby could just pull the trigger right then and there. Dahaka immediately Z in, and they just burn the camp in that brief window they had for advantage. But no, they decided not to, and they're still going to get the camp either way now. Inting for Ruby just completely ceding it over, or rather Granit Gaming ceding it over to Inting for Ruby. And now Dahaka actually brush stalkering in back into lane, maybe after getting a little bit bullied by a Wubby rotation. 0 camps so far taken this game by the members of Granit Gaming. 2.5 minutes in, we now have Inting for Ruby heading over to their bruiser camp. And there's a tongue by Gunnar. Under tower is gonna cause Wubby to tank a few additional hits right there. Very good damage trade. And the members of Granit Gaming finally heading over to their bruiser camp right here. But given that they're starting this so late, this will surely give over positioning advantage on the shrine itself to the members of Inting for Ruby, who will be able to head there much sooner than Granit Gaming.
Yeah, it looks like both teams are going to get their camps out at reasonable times. We're going to have that macro pressure from the camps. It is not a huge advantage to have a global in the context of this particular temple mid shrine. It's really hard to do anything but just double soak during it as the offlaner. So the global's not going to be able to like have some sort of insane rotational advantage coming into the bush from the top. Looks like they are trying to make sure that they do win it before they come. Falstad being bottom is a lot, though, because no one from Inting for Rubies is bottom right now, so they're going to be able to catch up on any sort of experience diff that currently exists, and Poik is just chucking Chromie spells. And he actually got some nice steals there. Poik is essentially stalling the altar long enough that maybe Falstad can actually end up doing something on the map.
The more time you cause Inting for Ruby to take on this objective, the more time you get for that Falstad split push, and the more time you buy for Wubby to clear out that top lane as well with Imperius, of course using that Holy Furfur for a bit of side lane pressure, and that's actually a dead Lunara. Quacknix dropping a spray right there. I'm not quite sure how that happens, but okay. That is first kill of the game for Granit Gaming, now secured right there. Punisher pushing down the mid lane, Breeze looking for a throw over the wall, but Regar's Earth Totem, whatever it's called, Earthbind Totem, able to prevent Breeze from getting the throw over the wall right there. Now Inting for Ruby simply backing off from first Punisher of the game and taking another siege camp.
I'm really surprised that, I mean, that's exactly the sort of scenario that Granit Gaming needs, right? They need someone isolated so they can get the pick. I don't know how Lunara died on that rotation, considering she had Wisp out and she was scouting the rotation with Wisp. Probably, I mean, I feel like the Wisp should have found the enemy team, and then Lunara would be like, oh, I can't rotate through here. I have to take the safe rotation through my own base. And then there's Lunara going down again. Hat not playing safe enough into that garage.
Which is weird because I don't see any rubies anywhere. Regardless, now Granit Gaming stepping forward. They do have their siege camp pushing mid, forcing the members of Inting for Ruby to clear it out, which will of course allow Granit Gaming to get the free clear on bottom side right here. Ooh, Breeze looking for the rotation onto Nox, but the minion wave being right there will prevent Breeze from getting any easy throws just quite yet. As of right now with the zoning lurking arm. And Cav, do you remember when the meta was for Stukov to put down the... Oh, wait, hold on. Breeze looking for the throw onto Fish, able to toss him in. Remember, Granit Gaming does have level 10 advantage for this moment right here. Inting for Ruby, and Hat dies yet again. 3 quick Hat deaths. He has 100% of Inting for Ruby's deaths here in the first 6 minutes. Definitely not what Inting for Ruby wanted. Mindhawk able to vault to the Wardens to prevent a Breeze throw right then and there. But Granit Gaming, thanks to some well-timed picks, all of a sudden now has a full level lead and is continuing the bot lane push. But I was going to say, Cav, what's up?
I was going to say that's a different kind of hat trick, but...
That's pretty good. Alrighty. But do you remember when the meta was for Stukov to lurking arm at your gate? Oh, and we see a Hammer of Justice into a tongue onto Quacknix. I want to talk about the days of Hot's old, but the action is so constant that they don't afford us. And he breaks Wrath of Anguirus, now landing onto Gunner. Quacknix barely barrel rolling out of there with very little HP, as is Azerite, and it will actually be Gunner who falls on that Tahaka. Wow, okay, Breeze starting to drop very low as well, trading some hits with Mindhawk. Umbral Bind onto Breeze will not get the yank off necessarily. Mindhawk backing off now, and another advantageous fight for Granit Gaming. They started out this game 0-2 in kills, and oh, Mindhawk with the Hearth Interrupt. Oh, you hate to see it. But Granit Gaming coming back from a rough very start of the game into just absolutely doing whatever they want from this point forward. Crazy stuff.
That was insane, brawl. I do remember the days of yore when Stukov Puddle was permanent, and you could even get the growth to be permanent as well, and you would just puddle on a gate, and it made it impossible to walk out in and out of the gate. We are going to see, and we've seen, and you see something very similar actually with Chromie Slowing Sands, where in a siege situation you just put it on the gate. And it's one of the very few scenarios where not killing the sidewalls actually is massively beneficial to the sieging team. Normally killing the sidewalls gives you more angles of approach, but if you have that kind of zone control, making the pass through smaller is really helpful. It's essentially the Spartans at the hot gates.
Quite the reference. And I remember Blizzard was actually discussing at the time making it so that a team would be able to intentionally kill their own sidewall to prevent this strategy from being done. And as far as they were communicating, it sounded like a done deal, and then Blizzard was just like, actually no. Mindhawk going in for the engage right there, does receive the Divine Shield, able to yank Breeze toward their teammates, but Quacknix with the Gust, able to save Breeze's life, and a significant lead on this shrine right here for the members of Granit Gaming. Oh, there's an isolation though onto Stukov. Wrath of Anguirus hits onto Hat. Yet again, Hat will fall once more. Azerite though makes it a 1-for-1 trade with his death. The fight continues. It is a 4-on-4 here in top lane. Gunnar, oh, lands the tongue onto Quacknix, but it's around the corner, so he's not able to pull him as far as he might like. Fish receives the ancestral healing. Gunnar now in there, pops his essence. Wubby standing in the middle of those flowing sands is going to be just fine, and it remains a 1-for-1 trade between these two teams. Inting for Ruby, clearing the shrine.
This is something that's really hard to do in competitive. Normally, you're playing a hero that's very, very safe, has a lot of range like Lunari. You're not used to dying. But sometimes you'll be up against a comp that's specifically targeting your hero. And as a competitive player, you need to be able to recognize when that's happening and be like, oh, I have to change my positioning. I have to play much safer. I have to, you know, not try to get in greedy autos. I just need to back up and let my team win the fight, because if I'm dying at the start of every fight, we're never going to win. And that situation's happening right now where Lunara is the target of choice, because everyone else on the team is actually so much harder to kill than Lunara is. So Granit Gaming is literally just targeting the easiest hero to kill, even though that hero is normally pretty safe, normally has a good amount of range, and Hat needs to be cognizant of that and start playing and positioning differently.
You know, this was actually something that I specifically remember, a bit of a culture shock for me in my early days of competitive Heroes of the Storm. I'm talking probably around 2016, 2017. I remember subbing in for a competitive team, and hold on, that's a stab over the wall onto Mindhawk. I can't tell any stories, they fight too much. All right, but that's, in my early days of Comp Huts, I subbed in for a competitive team, and we played a full support Tracer comp, okay? 2 tanks, 2 healers, Tracer. And the enemy team in these team fights would use everything on me. I'm talking all their ults, everything. And I was talking to one of my teammates about it, and I was like, yeah, I just didn't expect them to throw all their ults at me. And he said, Mockery, with how our comp is built, they could use all 5 ults on you, and if they kill just you, it's a positive trade. And that was something that really stuck with me in that moment when I thought, yeah, no, I guess you're right. If I'm really squishy, and I am also the heart of the DPS of this team, and if I don't accurately respect that, then I'm going to go down. Gunnar landing the isolation onto Wubby, following up with a tongue. That's going to be an easy pickoff on an isolated Wubby, but Inting for Ruby sent all 5 members of their team to this gank, and now we see Granit Gaming with a response on the opposite side of the map, pushing on to this keep, and now Granit Gaming pushing onto this keep. Inting for Ruby only sending back to Haka and Uther, and it's not worth the pickoff onto Wubby if it means the fall of your top keep in the moment. Now Breeze stepping up onto Gunnar will be able to find the throw on him in just a moment. Cleanse actually preventing it. There's Indomitable Breeze throwing Gunnar on out of there to make sure he's not going to get tongued on the retreat, and Granit Gaming making out like bandits after securing that top keep.
Yeah, it's worth noting that Inting Rubies is yet to get a single fort down, so they're going to have massive cattle pressure in that top lane for the remainder of the game. They do have a global, so it's a little bit easier to deal with. Also worth noting that Breeze is Decimate, which means at 20, he's actually going to have one of the best tools into comps like this, which is Deadly Calm, reducing that damage done by everyone. He even went Oppressor at 7, so he's really just trying to counter the Maiev damage as hard as physically possible. If Maiev is damage reduced enough, it doesn't matter if you're clumping anymore. She's just not going to be able to secure any kills.
Mindhawk and Breeze in a little bit of a dance right here. Breeze hitting that Decimate. Mindhawk will back off, as will the rest of the members of Inting for Ruby. Breeze holding on to his level 16 talent right here. Not exactly sure what he's going to pick, or maybe he's just trying to confuse the enemy. Who knows what exactly is going on right there. The members of Inting for Ruby heading over to their bruiser camp. Meanwhile, Wubby just sitting here absolutely camping out, hitting a bit of a spin, ready to capture that bruiser camp later. We see a similar delay move from the members of Inting for Ruby. Poik scouting it out with the Time Walker's Pursuit, able to confirm that that's what Inting for Ruby was doing. And now Breeze with the deep scout, looking forward to Haka, lands the Decimate. Oh, that's a long tongue from Gunnar. Max range onto Breeze. He hits the Indomitable, but he gets absolutely yoinked into the backline of Inting for Ruby. Follow it up with another tongue, and the isolated Breeze goes down just in time for this objective. What a well-timed pick by Inting for Ruby.
Yeah, Breeze positioned that really well, but he failed to account for the level 16 drag range is what it looked like, because he walked into a choke where drag literally can't miss with the Haka in range. And he didn't hit his end up. He did end up picking Seasoned Soldier. I don't know if he panic locked that in or if that was the plan all along. I'm going to get that second W charge for a little bit of additional healing, and a pick onto Wubby on the rotation. Another four-man pick. Five, actually. Everyone rotated again. Inting for Rubies needs to have one person not rotating for these picks. That's what they need.
It does seem a bit overkill. Mindhawk fishing for the aggressive containment disc will not be able to find anyone on the side of Granit Gaming. Getting an early lead on this objective. Now Quacknix flying down towards that bottom lane. Gonna pick up some soak as Gunner picking up the bottom neutral siege camp in the moment. Mindhawk sending the aggressive Shade of Vengeance toward the members of Granit Gaming. Not going to find anything just quite yet. Gunner actually tonguing Quacknix, and with the help of the siege camp, doing lots of damage to him in the meantime. Azerite popping that pustule over the wall, not really just sending it out, but there it goes, lands onto Gunner. Inting for Ruby going to easily secure this next objective. Hat, meanwhile, because Tahaka's bot lane, Hat is going to be the one to deal with this passive pressure of the Bruiser and the double catapult. It certainly is a lot for Inting for Ruby to account for. Macro going to be an issue, but now another Punisher pushing down mid lane. Let's see what Inting for Ruby can do with it.
I kind of want to hawk it back and be the one to deal with at least one top wave, and then dig for when the keep push starts happening. It looks like he is just going to stay bottom, not going to be worried about the top lane at all. And Inting for Rubies needs to get kills on this push, right? They're fighting with the Punisher. They have a comp that's designed to team fight. They should be able to make something happen, especially with a Frozen. They're not worried about the building aggro, but it doesn't look like they can find anything. And they have to find something 3 times in order for their comp to work now, because there's the Gust and the slaps from Stukov. So they need to like persistently fight over an extended period of time to reliably find something in these 5v5s now.
Breeze now stepping forward here onto Fish, who hits the Benediction double stun out of the bush directly onto Breeze. Chucking Uther right on out of there, though. He is unbothered. Containment disc lands onto Breeze from Mindhawk. Wubby looking for the Wrath of the Anguirus, will not be able to find Hat. Gunner tonguing Breeze directly out of the containment disc. Oh, and Mindhawk still able to hit that Umbral Bind pull in spite of the Falstad Gust. And you spoke a bit, Cav, about the save tools for Granit Gaming just before that fight, and I want to point out that those save tools are going to get astronomically more difficult to deal with in just a brief moment when Granit Gaming hits level 20, when Stukov is able to get additional slaps, and when that Gust is going to get magnitudes more powerful with that wind tunnel at level 20. It's certainly going to be a concern for the members of Inting for Ruby. I'm curious to see their individual pickoff potential post 20, but I still think that their team fight is going to be something to respect as a double support comp. Now Wubby rotating towards mid lane.
Yeah, there's going to be that Deadly Calm coming in for Granite as well, so we're going to have that to factor in. The damage reduce is going to be massive. I don't really think... I'm curious to see what Wubby and ends up going at level 20. It is going to be the Unstoppable plus the armor, so Wubby much less of a target now. For anyone who's curious, that is a thing that people occasionally do in competitive, especially in other games. It's not as common in HOTS, where you type in a time that the thing is going to be up when it is used, so you know how to play around the cooldown, or if you have to play around the cooldown.
It's so easy when you're specifically looking at 60-second long cooldowns as well. Those are my favorite. Mindhawk looking for the soak right here. Wubby trying to find the aggressive Wrath of the Anguirus, and that is an 80-second cooldown just downed right there as he was fishing for Mindhawk. Mindhawk picking up a bit of that mid-soak. The members of Inting for Ruby taking their own Bruiser camp in the meantime. And now Granit Gaming taking this bottom neutral siege camp as well. Inting for Ruby in the area, not able to find anything just quite yet. And at the moment, we're just going to see, I predict, a little bit of stalling until this next objective, which it is here. Quacknix sitting in the bush near Inting for Ruby.
Quacking's hiding in the bush, seeing what's going to happen. Gunner walks into the bush. Quacking's immediately barrels out. He wants no part of that. And this is how this should be positioned. Both globals are bottom for the team, and we can see Inting for Ruby is working on pushing out the top lane, so they are using minions to get vision of that top lane. They don't want to rotate through that jungle, and you can see they wait. They play nice and patiently. However, as I say that, Mindhawk is going to int into a bush. and be forced to use Divine Shield just to save him. That is really unfortunate. They have to use such an important cooldown so early.
Umbral Bind from Mindhawk is denied by Breeze's Indomitable, and now there is a stab into silence onto Dahaka. Gunner trying to get out of there with the tunneling claws, will land the tongue. Mindhawk also deep in there as well, getting some resets, but Gunner is the first to fall in this post-level 20 fight. Mindhawk jumping in deeper, Azurite slapping him away. Breeze now very low HP, and there is a Wrath of the Anguirus onto Maiev. Mindhawk gonna receive the Ancestral Healing. This is level 20 Ancestral Healing though, so the healing value is massive. Fish now over the wall, going in onto Breeze. The aggression is so huge from Inting for Ruby, but Mindhawk taking so much damage, and he's out of save tools. He's already received the Divine Shield and Ancestral, but it's actually Fish that's going to go down. Keep in mind, this is post-level 20 Uther, so Uther will respawn in just a moment to join his team after getting dropped. Fish jumping directly into Breeze's hands for the throw, or sorry, Mindhawk jumping directly into Breeze's hands for the throw, will go down right away, and now Lunara is the sole DPS here with Nox and Fish available. Make that just Fish as Nox goes down as well. I'm a bit puzzled by Mindhawk jumping right into Breeze right there.
I don't know. Uther Ghost was running out, but Uther was going to come back alive, but they were split. You can't really go when your team is split with double support. It doesn't work that way. You have to be together as a clump. It's sort of what's known as a death ball. The ball is deadly. If you split the ball up, the ball is no longer deadly. But the split up doesn't necessarily mean not on the side of the map. It can be like literally 12 range away, you know, still in the same fight, but not on the same page. And they were split. And the sad thing is they would have 100% won this fight. It was, you know, technically it was, they got 1 for 2. But Dahaka has a global, died early, could have come back. Uther was going to come back to life, and then they just ran. I don't know. There's no other way to put it. They should have played more patiently, and they would have been fine.
Fish attempting to deny the Mighty Gust right there from Quacknix. Quacknix displaying a bit of patience, waits for that Divine Shield to run out, and then is able to push the members of Inting for Ruby into their team. And now Granit Gaming sieging onto this core. Breeze tossing Nox directly into his team, followed up with a stab from Wubby. Containment Disc does not land in time to save them, and this will be Granit Gaming sieging down this core. Fish is next to fall on the side of Inting for Ruby. Mindhawk just chilling in base. Will step out for just another brief moment. Vault of the Warden's coming out, but that is a Game 1 victory for Granit Gaming.
That's a really solid draft from Rubies. I'm sorry to see them lose that one, but it's one of those things. You got to play to the comp strengths. You got to make sure you're on the same page as your team. HOTS is a very team-based game. If you don't play with your team, and you try to like perform individually in a comp that's designed to be played where all 5 members are on the same page, you're gonna struggle.
We've got that post-game scoreboard pulled up right here, and definitely just picking off the one person that's not playing with the team seemed to be the theme of this game. We saw Wubby get targeted a few times. Imperius, not the best offlaner in terms of endurance and gank resistance, able to be targeted a few times by Inting for Ruby, but Inting for Ruby seeming to send too many resources to go for Wubby right there, such as when we saw them lose their top keep in the middle of a Wubby kill, and then immediately after send 5 members after Wubby again. Meanwhile, Hat consistently isolated out in that very last fight. Mindhawk isolated out. Just whoever a team can get their hands on when they're separated from the rest of their friends. It was just absolutely the person that was always going to fall here in this game. I'm noticing a Super Strain. I think that makes a lot of sense. Cav, would you happen to know, does Super Strain trigger off of Maiev's Umbral Bind when it pulls you? Cav has no idea whatsoever. We've lost Cav.
I was muted. My bad. Umbral Bind is, in fact, a 0.25 second stun. Blizzard implements a lot of micro stuns into displacement abilities to make the animations look cleaner, actually. It wasn't supposed to be a relevant balance point, but it makes everything look nicer if the target is briefly stunned, and you don't have to worry about them activating something and having it have wonky animation interactions where the pull is happening, but also something else is happening at the same time.
You know, what I wonder about, is I actually saw Spazzo complaining earlier today on the Heroes of the Storm subreddit about Dahaka's Lurker strain, the knockback from it being considered a stun. And
it is a stun.
So I'm wondering, does that subsequently should mean that it triggers Super Strain for additional healing, right?
It would.
That is an additional layer to consider right there.
Although Lurker Strain was not taken this game.
Was it not?
Nope. It was Hero Stalker.
Gotcha.
I'm actually a little bit disappointed in Gunner. He went Hero Stalker without going full W build. I don't think you should go Hero Stalker if you're not going to be full W build with the spell armor at 1 and the CDR at 7. And I think for this particular game, it would have been an insane build because he could have just, with double support, he could have just lived inside the enemy team 24/7. Just keep hitting W, keep taking 50% less damage from all spells, and get more essence from hitting people with W, and then hit W again, and then hit essence. And he actually would have been nearly unkillable.
Oh, dude, when I play frontline, you don't have to do any convincing to get me to play those live forever frontliners, okay? I just want to stand on backline and just camp out. It's the most fun playstyle for me. Waiting.
Is that why you play frontline Tracer?
Oh. I mean, I do love to just camp out in enemy base. There's this play I do all the time that drives every team I play with up the wall, where like after a successful push, I just sit there and I camp out in enemy base for like an extra 30 seconds, because I know that with Jumper, the enemy team can't catch me. So all the time they devote to going after me is just time that my team gets to devote to running around, doing camps, pushing lanes, whatever. But it's really, really important that they understand that and do things, and that they don't just think I'm inting. So that's always certainly a part of it. And occasionally it is int. All right, just a little bit of a secret for you right there. Alrighty, as we get in to the game number 2 draft right here, after Granit Gaming wins game 1, this is going to be Granit Gaming with first pick, subsequently meaning that this is Inting for Ruby's map choice to take us to Tomb of the Spider Queen.
This is another map where double support, especially the Octalysis style of double support, where you make sure you have an insane amount of wave clear. 1 second. Should be fine. The main weakness of double support generally is its lack of macro, but when you replace your tank with something like a Maev who has a ton of wave clear, that doesn't become relevant anymore.
Now here we see Maev and Kerrigan, 2 melee assassins that we know Mindhawk in particular is fond of, going to be banned out right there. Feels like a bit of targeting from Granit Gaming. We saw Mindhawk with that Kerrigan get the kill onto Ty's Lucio over the wall. And Cav, I thought Oxygen wasn't playing today. What's with this hammer ban?
I don't know, but Poik must have been spamming hammer on stream. There's no other explanation, but Poik gonna be on that Vala. Looks like they're gonna have their own potential hyper carry style of composition.
Vala always a threat as well, and we've seen teams in the past actually ban away Vala from Inting for Ruby. I can't help but wonder if this Vala acts as a pseudo ban on its own to prevent Inting for Ruby from investing too heavily into that double support hyper carry playstyle. Hat, though, this time going to be playing on Hanzo, hopefully able to avoid getting picked off in the early game like last time, and Gunner gonna be on that Hogger as well. Certainly a strong pick on virtually any map. Gav, I'm curious, is there a map where you're like, oh, I don't want to play Hogger?
Hanamura.
Yeah, Hanamura, I figured it had to be the one. Anything else, or is it just strictly Hanamura?
It's just Hanamura. Hanamura, the lanes are so wide that there's no bounces that allow you to do wave clear. You can't soul the Samurai. The way the turret camp works, Hogger doesn't actually do it that much faster than a lot of other solo campers. The only thing Hogger is really good at on Hanamura is doing the vision camps, and that's it. Like, it's not... You're not, like, gonna do anything. It can be really good in team fights if the draft lines up for it, but it's not good on the map.
Makes perfect sense right there. And virtually any other map, Hogger's just going to be such a threat that you have to consider. Meanwhile, Breeze going to be on that Anubarak. Best Anub World, if I remember correctly, was the call from CavalierGuest himself. And Stukov going to be following up with the Lurking Arm whenever Breeze goes in. That long-range cross-screen silence going to assist in the CC chain. And so far, a lot of offensive firepower being picked up by the members of Granit Gaming. Junkrat going to be banned out as well. And also Inting for Ruby not wanting to deal with Quacknix's Falstad yet again. They had enough of it in game number 1. Let's see what they pick right here. There's going to be Johanna and Lucio. What's up, Cav?
I'll be really curious to see what Wubby ends up picking into Hogger, because Hogger was not a hero that existed when Wubby was playing the game every day. And I imagine he has some practice into it, but I'm curious to see what he thinks is good into Hogger, and then I'll be really curious to see how well he plays it, given that it can be a really hard matchup overall. Ooh, Rexar. Interesting.
Rexar going to be picked up here. And as is always the case with Rexar, I'm always wondering, is this going to be Bird of Prey looking for that wave clear? Which would certainly be understandable on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Or are we going to see more of a focus on the vision control with the flare? That's always what I like to see. I like to see teammates getting just permanent information about the map, because flare is a near 100% uptime. It has an identical duration and cooldown, so the only thing preventing it from having 100% uptime is the mere travel time of the flare going out onto the area right there. But Wubby, certainly going to be an interesting matchup, seeing how he uses that. And the rest of Granit Gaming is just built so aggro here. I know it's a double support comp, but they're so aggro. But at the same time, where's the wave clear, Gav, for GG?
Granit Gaming subscribes to an old school of thought, which is that if the enemy wave clear is dead, you don't need wave clear yourself. So with that insane with the insane pick potential of their comp, that's what they're looking for. They're also just going to try, I assume, looking at their comp, they're going to try to play fairly passively in the early game. And if you're using all your cooldowns on waves, even odd comps, especially in Tomb of the Spider Queen, can sort of keep up in wave clear because the rotations themselves are so short. And if you get to 16 or whatever, and you're only down a couple forts, but you have double support, you should be able to win every fight from that point onward.
We will see exactly what they do, as on the right side of your screen, Inting for Ruby, we have Gunner playing that Hogger this time. Mindhawk actually flexing over to Healer, going to be on Lucio after getting target banned by Granit Gaming. Nox is going to be our other healer, is going to be on Ariel. Fish777 playing Johanna, and Hat on that Hanzo.
On the left-hand side of the map, we are going to have Poik on Bala, Breeze on Anubarak, Quacknix on Karazim, Azerite on Stukov again this game, and Wubby on Rexar. I'm curious. I'm wondering if there's some sort of interaction with the ults. Are they going to, int Misha? Oh, wow. They're going solo Misha mid at the start. They're going to use the Beetles to get a tower down, and Gunner actually sniffs this out. He starts bottom as Hogger. Are we going to see? We are going to see a nice wall stun there, using the fact that Hogger Q knocks back radially instead of straight back to actually get the side wall stun on two people, and only half a tower for Granit Gaming. And this is something you can do in your double support, actually, on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Rather than having the offlane be bottom, you can have the offlaner rotate mid top to sort of compensate for your lack of wave clear, and you just brawl with your double support. And if the enemy team doesn't brawl you, you push. And if the enemy team does brawl you, you're in an ideal scenario where your hyper carry is getting stacks, in this case the Vala, and you're just running, and you're just running it down. Like it's a rundown comp.
No, you said that Gunner sniffed it out, and I think it had something to do with the fact that we saw Poik type in chat mid is lava.
That's just mind games. That's just mind games.
I can't help but wonder if that might have clued the members of Inting for Ruby in on what was coming. As now, yes, the two 4-mans are both bot lane just brawling into each other for the moment. Notably, Breeze opting for the additional spell armor at level 1 right there into this composition. I think that's a bit of an interesting choice. Maybe going to help the survivability into ability damage. Granit Gaming going to their bruiser camp on spawn, a little bit behind it. Inting for Ruby, though, not going directly for their bruiser camp, will cap the neutral siege. We're seeing a bit of aggressive scouting from Mindhawk as well, sitting deep in that enemy bush. Not sure what exactly is going on there. Stalling the rotation just for a moment. And here's Breeze stepping onto this point.
Breeze has E available, so he'll be able to get out of here. There's no chance his team gets there in time because of the delay in the rotation by Mindhawk. So nicely done there. Mindhawk getting punched, but Ariel will be able to save him. Karazim actually pumping a lot of damage there into Lucio. That's actually a little spooky. And meanwhile, we're just going to have the mid. I really wish that Inting for Rubies at some point would try to send someone up to sub Hogger for even a single wave. Hogger can get bruisers out by himself in 16 seconds if he's allowed to. So it's you just need one wave to be sub for you, and you're good. Like.
Ooh, Mindhawk taking a whole lot of damage in the meantime, has already ridden that threshold between life and death a few times here to start this game, but nobody going down just quite yet. No deaths in this game, 2.5 minutes in. Slight experience lead at the moment for Inting for Ruby, but it's effectively just the difference of soaking a few minions. Ooh, now an engage from Breeze, and Nox will be first to fall on that Ariel. Will go down in the bot lane brawl. The double support versus double support continues. Now we see also at the same time Gunnar actually getting bullied by Wubby as well, losing most of his HP, but it's actually Lucio gonna fall next. I don't know how that happens. How do you die in the 2-on-4 when you're under tower?
You go out from under your towers. That's the trick. You gotta run into the entire team so that you're technically 4v1 if you look at it positionally, as opposed to just on the minimap. And oh wow, that's a 1-for-1 though. That's huge. And they're actually gonna lose a lot of gems there. You can see the pings happening. Defend the gems. Don't let the enemy team pick the gems up.
And Hogger taking some damage as well. Fish also getting chunked. Quacknix jumping over the wall. Nox lands the wall stun onto Quacknix as soon as they come back, and that is another 1-for-1 between these two teams right here. Level 7s have been achieved for the members of Granit Gaming. Inting for Ruby about to do the same. There it is right then and there. Gunnar losing a lot of HP in this mid lane does hit the wall bang onto Wubby. Mindhawk pushing Wubby in toward Gunnar, trying to find him, but the damage just isn't quite there. Not able to look for the execution. Wubby does have a healing fountain available and will be able to stall Gunnar from dumping in those 28 gems. Meanwhile, Nox and Hat looking for a fight over there. I'm trying to make sure not to miss any of the action, and this stall from Misha is so huge at just applying pressure onto this turn-in and preventing Gunnar from being able to find anything. Now Fish and Nox with a bit of scuffle in mid lane, and here's Breeze looking for something over the wall.
He is wrapping around. Even though he has beetles, if he does hit the person, it's gonna not be tanked. But if you miss, you can just walk out having taken no damage. OP. Nox still in a little bit of trouble. Hopefully he manages to get out. I want to, as soon as this, they're going to have another blind, by the way, at 13 from the Ariel, I would assume. I'm actually kind of curious to look at talents to see what the Ariel is doing this game, because there are debates about what is the best Ariel build since her Swift Sweep was made based on it. It looks like it's going to be W1, so they're essentially taking the strongest talent at each tier, as opposed to going for a full cohesive build. And with into the essentially auto attack assassin Karazim, I actually would have preferred full Q build here from Nox to get the blind value. You know, it's almost a perma blind. Vala, it is Q build Vala, but even Q build Vala does a lot of auto attack damage. Karazim does a lot of auto attack damage, and the brawling continues. We are going to see aggro range at level 4 from Hogger. That talent in its current iteration is really just to make Pummel more reliable. Pummel is more likely to be on people for longer and more likely to hit them in the first place if you're aggro range, and Pummel is one of the best counter talents in the entire game to double support. So they're really playing to try to win these like in-team fights and not necessarily to get any sort of advantage in lane.
Large scatter onto Poik right there, and we see Nox actually completing the repeated offense quest for Ariel, going to get those big knockbacks, big damage. Meanwhile, Wubby absolutely chunking this mid gate, going to be aggressed on by the members of Inting for Ruby, who hit the 4-man rotation onto Wubby, but at the same time are going to face a counter push from the members of Granit Gaming. Not going to lose the fort though, just going to take a bit of damage. Level 10s now achieved for both teams in the moment. You were flashing those talents at the bottom of your screen, and what's up, Cav?
I mean, Granit Gaming got a single turn in, right? But they have 9 gems right now. That means Wubby must have been holding a lot of gems, and now that he's not, that's a significant gem loss. Even though it's just 1 kill, which is normally not that big a deal, losing all those gems is massive. Falling Sword going to come out from Fish there to get a little bit of cleanse. They have a lot of cleanses now. They have High Five. They have Falling Sword. Hogger has his E. They have Hortipole. Like there's a lot going on in the Unstoppable department into this comp.
Unstoppable certainly always going to be a huge part of a game. I see chat just calling out cooldowns in here. Thank you, chat. You are greatly appreciated. I'm pretty sure that disc call out happened before either team had even hit level 10. Now Breeze walking on out of there. Fish as well, just stepping in, looking for any disruption that they can get. Webweaver, the only majorly healthy Webweaver alive for Inting for Ruby, is here in this bottom lane, going to look for some of this push pressure in the moment. Hat just chunking down these structures with help from friends, but Breeze always going to look for a stun combo whenever they can find it, and the defense continues here in the moment. Fish, watching the flank, has decided against it, now joining the team. Inting for Ruby would love to finish out this Hort, but this Webweaver is about to go down.
Quackness on the flank, they're getting the cocoon out. They don't have an insane cocoon break or anything. Arrow just misses everyone. Wow. Okay. Nox is going to go down, I think, off of that cocoon. Yeah, he's just too far out of position to be saved, unfortunately. They really... Lucio's their best cocoon break, so Lucio can't be the one cocoon, but his cocoon break is his autos, so everyone needs to run at the cocoon and cover for the Lucio while he breaks it, so they can't get that timing. And they need to not fight 4v1. That's 4v1 is a bad numbers fight, as it turns out.
At jumping on away from the members of Granit Gaming, and that's not the first time we've seen Breeze just fishing with that Impale, trying to find whoever they can, and if they simply land the Impale, immediately following it up with it on the burrow charge. That's of course a classic Anubarak play right there. You don't risk much, you know, you just toss out the Impale. If it lands, great, you get a kill. If it doesn't, okay, you just wait for next Impale and you try again. And we certainly see Breeze going for that play and doing it successfully, able to land the burrow charge onto multiple members of IFR. Quacknix following up with that 7-sided strike. Level 13's now secured for Granit Gaming, who are not going to invade this Bruiser camp, instead walking away right here. And now Breeze getting a bit of aggressive scouting. Both teams with enough gems to look for a turn-in.
And they are going to be fighting over it. They really do need 13, and I would argue that they also really want to have an actual 5v5 at some point, now that as soon as they are 13, because of the pummel. Nice wall stun. Ariel Hogger, actually, interesting synergy, by the way, since Hogger does generate terrain, there is a chance that he can give Ariel more wall stuns than she would otherwise be able to get. And if she gets a successful wall stun, Hogger's follow-up is always going to be really easy for him. So
the
nice
easiest
there.
hero to wall stun is a hero that is already wall stunned. It is certainly true as well right there.
When you put it like that, it just sounds silly.
No, I mean, like, it's I think that some things, you know, it's like when you say a cliche, right? Like, some things are just cliche because they make sense, okay? You know, like, and that's what I think it is right there. I don't think it sounds silly at all. It's a natural form of synergy that you may not outright think of on its own, but when you see it right in front of you, makes perfect sense. All right, and so I can personally say that I have played Hanzo, and some of the easiest Hanzo games of my life have come when my teammates were Diablo and Hogger, and Gunnar just getting isolated right there. We see the classic burst combo, Anubarak, Stukov, Karazin following up on it with the 7-sided strike, always going to be an element of following up right there, but because they went so deep for the dive, going to be taking a lot of damage in the meantime, able to land the Impale as well as the Cocoon. Fish, oh, that's a Dragon Arrow landing out onto Breeze, going to enable Inting for Ruby to finish him him off right there, and the chase continues, this time onto Azerite. Mindhawk booping Azerite into their team, able to find the kill. Yes, there it is. Inting for Ruby trying to even up this kill count, still down 6 to 7, but not able to find anything else just quite yet. There's the counter stun onto Mindhawk from Misha, going to be just fine though.
Now that ended up being okay for Inting for Rubies in the sense that they traded up 2 for 1. However, they didn't even get a fort out of their Webweaver push. This is their second turn in, I believe. Yeah. And they finally did manage to secure bottom fort, so now that lane is a little bit more even. You want to be getting these forts down so that the catapult pressure starts to build up, but also just so you have a potential win condition to end the game. And, you know, are you better at 20? If you're better at 20, then you really want to also make sure you're getting that experience. And, you know, losing your offlaner in that situation, you're going to miss a bit of soak during the push. It slows the game down considerably. And for the first time this game, I think, Hogger's finally going to do a bruiser game.
We did see Hogger do bruiser once before this. This is his second time. But now we see Azerite actually going directly onto this camp. Granit Gaming about to have 16 advantage should Inting for Ruby be aware of what's going on. But Inting for Ruby actually scouting out this siege camp, which to me says that they have no idea that this is happening. And despite having not much of an advantage other than simply a half-level lead, Granit Gaming is somehow able to turn that into both a boss and a turn-in simultaneously, which just should not happen. Dragon Arrow solely connecting onto Misha. Mindhawk pushing Misha toward their team, but not even able to confirm that kill. Both teams level 16 at this point, though, and I think that's just... I think this play honestly comes down to a bit of a mental lapse from Inting for Ruby.
That was a weird Falling Sword too. I like the Falling Sword in this comp should be being used for peel, but it looked like Fish used it as an engage, which is not correct. But yeah, they didn't think to check. It looked like they didn't even think to check boss, because if you're there, you can at least slow it down. Aegis, massive value there, preventing the 7-sided and Puddle from getting a kill onto Lucio. And this is going to be a 5v5. Mid will be dealt with by Bruiser Camp, which is now dead, but it pushed the lane out. Siege bottom. They really only need to defend top, and they'll be in good shape.
This is a lot to defend against, though it's certainly easier said than done, as this is both a boss and Webweaver. Mindhawk taking a lot of damage from the stun combo, but it will not be enough to finish them off entirely. However, this top keep will fall for Inting for Ruby. There's Gunner hortapulting in, actually gets hit by the boss stun, but will be able to unstoppable to avoid the stun, still taking damage. Stukov is the first to fall, Misha is second. Poik now getting their strafe interrupted. There's a short range Dragon Arrow, and despite losing their keep, Inting for Ruby able to turn it into a double kill plus Misha right there. Certainly at least something they could have wanted. 15 minutes on Arrow has been called from Poik as well. We're just going to continually see that in the all chat this game, I guess. And now Rexar backing all the way off toward Bruiser Camp for Inting for Ruby.
That was an insane hortapult from Gunner. He got the hortapult off, and he immediately got the E off, and that E actually bounced, and it resulted in a 5-man pummel. And a 5-man pummel means that the supports are healing for 50% less. It means that everyone's slowed by 50%. Everyone's doing 50% less damage. It's actually insane how much value was gotten there.
I'm watching these fights, and it feels like Wubby just uses Flare as an extra damage button. Like he just throws Flare in the middle of the fight.
You need to, if you can see the enemy team, you can pick your targets better. It's it allows you to do damage better. It's not necessarily that it does damage.
It reminds me, as we see Burrow Charge coming out onto Johanna there from Breeze. Falling Sword used as an escape tool. The Blakitny Falling Sword, of course, always part of it. Hortapult from Gunner gonna get on out of there. Burrow Charge will still connect onto him. Very long range from Breeze. 7-sided strike as well. Wow! Despite being so far away, Gunner will go down to the aggressive burst damage. And Inting for Ruby with the consolation prize of Misha. This time now pushing 4v5. Hold on a second. There's the Dragon Arrow onto Breeze. Breeze gonna Burrow Charge on out. Impale not landing onto Mindhawk. But again, this is 4-on-5. They don't have Gunner. The re-engage from Granit Gaming is here. Beautiful wall stun from Nox. And the members of Inting for Ruby are simply going to back off.
You know, they did, at least mid fort is down. They really actually ideally would get top fort, so at least they have a catapult every third wave to mitigate the pressure that's coming every wave out of Granit Gaming. and maybe they can get it. There was a preference towards the bottom side to clear that web weaver out, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to do too much. Granite Gaming does rotate in time. They're on the way to 20 at this point. Inting for Ruby will get 20 first, but Granite Gaming is going to be the team that has the next turn, and they're going to start. Inting for Ruby is going to start the Bruisers. I'm actually wondering if they're going to hold this for the web weaver turn in that they know is inevitably coming shortly, or if they're going to be greedy and try to get it and then immediately go bottom and do double camp. Looks like they're going to immediately go bottom and try to do the double camp.
Gunner scouting out that bush with a bit of dynamite right there. Granite Gaming only 4 gems away from securing this turn-in. Not able to get it off this mid-wave just quite yet, but able to get very close. Don't let that gem die, Wubby! Oh no! Alrighty, there it is now. Granite Gaming has enough for the turn-in. Both teams rather close to level 20. We do see the engage. Scatter arrow, that's one of the best places in the game to hit a big one, especially when you've got piercing arrows, is in that little hallway right there. Both teams level 20 just around the corner. Granite Gaming now starting to back off. 20 achieved for Inting for Ruby, who also have the Bruiser camp pushing with them. They want to push with this spell armor 5 mid and see what they can do.
Yeah, and it looks like they're actually gonna, like, Granite didn't get the turn in. They opted not to turn in, even though they had the option to do so, because they decided to brawl instead. So now we're gonna have this push, but Stukov Silence Puddle, so good defensively. Not a lot's gonna happen there. And who snuck that? It looks like Quacknick snuck the turn in. So now they don't have the camps pushing. So now they actually have to deal manually with every single lane. So really smart hold from Granite Gaming, realizing that the camps would mitigate the value. And now Granite Gaming can push any lane they want to. They can try to end top. They could open up the map by pushing mid, which is what they're opting to do. They could try to snipe bottom keep. They could have done anything there. And oh my god!
Massive arrow engage. Here's the follow-up from the members of Inting for Ruby. Not able to find too much off of it, though, in spite of how big that stun was, landing onto all 6 heroes of the members of Granite Gaming. Yes, I'm including Misha in that count. Now Inting for Ruby starting to back off here, and at minimum, that at least means that it doesn't look like they will lose mid-keep just quite yet. Gunner going over and hopping onto that top lane, looking for the clear onto the web weaver, which is now approaching the core of Inting for Ruby. Bottom web weaver still about half HP as it walks forward, but GG is heading straight for the boss out of this objective. They know exactly where they want to go. Inting for Ruby, let's hope that they're more aware of it this time. Breeze looking for a bit of zoning and scouting, and GG is simply waiting for their bottom web weaver to die so that they can get on this boss. Inting for Ruby is significantly closer this time than last time, though. Looking for a bit of scouting. Let's see, web weaver about to go down, so boss will spawn soon, but both teams are here.
Ooh. Initial stun onto the Joe, gets cleansed. We're going to have a falling sword in. I don't think we're going to get much resets off of that. Yeah, it's still at 30-second cooldown. We're going to have the high five out. Mindhawk using the high five defensively to get away from his aggressive positioning. No control is used. This is not a great no control. It is high rage, but the enemy team is relatively split. Forced a horde pulled out. And at the end of the day, Misha dies and everyone on Inting for Ruby is alive. You got to call that a win. I'll accept they lost bottom keep.
They did lose bottom keep, and there is Mindhawk taking a lot of damage. Crystal Aegis forced to be used to save their life. Catapults are on core, but I don't think it's going to be a huge threat on Inting for Ruby just quite yet. Falling Sword denies the 7-sided strike value. There's the interrupt onto Azurite's attempted lurking arm. Breeze now burrow charging in, followed up by the puddle, and it's big. It sets up the double kill for Granite Gaming. Quacknick's making it a triple kill in that backline right there. Way of the 100 Fists absolutely smacking Hanzo down. Now Mindhawk on the retreat, trying to make it on out of here. Gunner throwing the dynamite, but with only 2 members of Inting for Ruby alive, this defense on the core is nearly impossible. The members of Granite Gaming simply just shredding the core. Mindhawk and Gunner trying to do what they can. Gunner will get CC chained, and with that, it is all but guaranteed, if not just outright guaranteed. There it is, GG shredding the core as they complete the 2-0 sweep over Inting for Ruby.
Yeah, that was sad. I think I don't know about Hypercarry Hanzo. Hypercarry Hanzo is something that is theoretically possible. He is capable of pumping out that level of damage, but It's the hardest hero to do it on from a mechanical perspective, and it puts a lot of constraints on the team. So they really have to like fight near walls and stuff. This was Q build Vala. This was the burst version of Vala, not even the sustained damage version of Vala. And Vala did more damage than the Hanzo. So if you're gonna be a team that wants to pivot into double support, I don't know about prioing something like Hanzo, who is the hardest hero to carry on, as opposed to picking something that's a little bit easier to do the hyper carry levels of damage on, and just playing for the ease of execution as opposed to maybe something that's technically better but much more difficult to play.